Hey there, how are you? Jake Query, Derek Schultz, the incredibly creatively and appropriately named Query and Schultz program here on ISC Sports Network. ISC Sports Network is redundant, right?
What do you mean?
Oh, no, I guess not. Indiana Sports. What's ISC stand for? I thought it was Indiana Sports Channel.
Incredible Sports Celebration.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
I thought the S, there's a Schultz in there now.
Oh, well, I think down the line, that's the long-term goal, is to put that in there.
Okay.
We'll have to, Greg Mash, Greg Rakestraw.
Incredibly Schultz's company?
We'll have to sit down and have a talk about that because there's a licensing fee that comes with that.
Okay.
But sure, I mean, down the line, I think maybe someday the S could stand for
Now, just out of curiosity, now that you have a new job, and for those that are unfamiliar, here is the situation. My name is Jake Query. This is Derek Schultz. I'm a native of Indianapolis, Indiana. Derek grew up in Connecticut, came to Indiana where his parents are natives for college and has stayed ever since. We did a radio show for like 9 years together on a radio conglomerate that then downsized virtually everyone. And so we have reacquainted here. And now Derek has found employment with the ISC Sports Network, the great channel in which you're watching this on any of a number of different variations in terms of how you ingest it. And through all of this, I'm most excited for Derek because it means that you can now go out and get yourself a new pajama shirt, unlike the one that you're wearing for the second time that is faded in the front of it versus the sleeves.
No, it's supposed to be two different
I don't know that
colors.
That's the case.
Yeah, dude. These are darker.
That's an undershirt.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I think it kind of is.
It's a thermal.
It is. I mean, it's cool.
Why do you make fun
it's
of
cool,
my
but I'm just saying.
I think this is
it's
very
faded.
right. This is good fashion.
It's not
it
bad.
Keeps me warm.
It's not bad.
Hugs me where I need to be hugged.
Okay.
Just like my
Well,
jeans.
that's the only hug that you're going to be getting on this program, I promise you. A lot to get to today, but as always, this program, Query and Schultz, is brought to you by WGU Indiana, who we will talk a lot more about upcoming. Keep in mind that WGU Indiana just got done with a run where they were giving away $10,000 in scholarships to celebrate their 10 years. What's that?
10 fat stacks?
Yeah, 10 fat stacks. That's right. Ambition never rests. And so kind of if you want to get that education on your own schedule, then Indiana's accredited online university is the place for you, wgu.indiana.edu. We'll get to more on them coming up throughout the course of the show. But, Derek, as always, kind of the lead, if you will, that we get to right off the top, the Indianapolis Colts and impressive win. You know, there are always 2 or 3 road games per season, it seems like, where they go on the road and just everything clicks and hums. And you're like, man, these guys are good. And in Las Vegas was one of those.
Yeah, it reminded you of what happened a couple of weeks ago in Nashville on that Thursday night game where they completely, at halftime it looked close and the game was kind of up in the air. And then the second half, they just turned the Jets on. But a huge win. You never say never because weird stuff happens all the time.
Turned the Jets on is a football term you use in 2020. The Jets are 0-13.
Yeah. Or just in general. I mean, it's a franchise that hasn't been to a Super Bowl since the Johnson administration,
right.
So it's not exactly a pillar of success. Turned it on just in general, so just take the Jets out of it. They turned it on in the second half. You're interrupting my train of thought. What I was saying was you never say never because weird and dumb stuff can happen.
It was the Nixon administration.
But the Colts – no, it was the very end of the LBJ administration when they played that Super Bowl.
Just before
Nixon was sworn in.
Okay.
Yeah, January of 69.
Correct.
Yeah, in the 68 season. Colts have like 91% playoff odds now. So what the win on Sunday in Vegas did is, barring a catastrophe, it virtually assures that the Colts are going to be a postseason team. Get this, Jake. This is kind of depressing for only the second time since 2015.
Yeah, that's not terrible. Well, I mean,
for where this franchise was, it is
2015. It's not like you said for only the second time
Jake,
since 1982.
It's going to be 2021 in 2 weeks. This team
so
just
a
clinched
third of the time.
their second winning season since 2015.
Understood.
I mean, there's been a lot of mediocre and bad football for this franchise.
Obviously, the reason it was a big win, aside from getting, closer to double digits or even 11, 12, the biggest being that the Raiders were a team that were right there in.
Yeah, now they're gone.
Trying to get in the party also, right?
Yeah.
They were all waiting in line outside the bar, trying to get in, and the bouncer said, okay, you're out.
We'll get into playoff scenarios later. the Colts still alive for the division. That's going to be a little bit of a tougher climb. But now we can really start to kind of solidify thoughts of, okay, well, this team is going to be in. Now where do we want them to go?
The challenge, Derek, is the AFC is loaded. I mean, the AFC is loaded. And kind of quietly, as strange as that sounds, Kansas City has really emerged here as the only one that you could say, okay, they're the clear favorite in the AFC. Obviously, I mean, they're the defending Super Bowl champs. They only have one loss. But even going out and turning the ball over 4 times and still finding ways to win. Kansas City is obviously on a different level. Buffalo's right there. I think Buffalo's really good. Their
we barely talked
is
about
very
it.
active. I know. But look, Indianapolis, to me, if Jonathan Taylor's able to run the ball like that and Phillip Rivers is not turning the ball over, they're in the mix. I mean, this reminds me kind of the Let It Rip Marchabrota team, where about 3/4 way through the year you think, you know what, these guys are pretty good.
Yeah, and I've just been really impressed the last couple of weeks from what we've seen with Jonathan Taylor. And we thought maybe the Green Bay game could be the turning point for him. Because remember, against Baltimore, in that pitiful performance, especially in the second half they got against the Ravens, basically he was benched. And he didn't touch the ball after that fumble early on. And I think Jordan Wilkins, if memory serves, came in, and he was the guy who was essentially the RB1 for the rest of the afternoon. But Taylor really has just run differently. He's run with a purpose. His vision has been there. The physicality clearly has been there.
Vision, yeah.
And then we saw the breakaway speed a little bit in Vegas with that long tutty run. So
Touchdown.
a $150, 2 tuds. I mean, it was a career performance.
Why would you say
for
tutty,
Taylor,
but then tuds?
It's short.
Well, I know, but you're
Tuds
saying,
is short for tutties,
but
which is short for touchdowns.
But you said a tutty. You would think you would say a tud, and then when it's plural, then it becomes tutties.
The only thing that I really need you to do on this show,
I mean, I'm just saying, linguistically speaking, I think people would probably say that I have the greater lexicon than you. So you should probably follow my lead on what works and what doesn't.
We all have like our responsibilities on the show, which has made it work for almost a decade, which is why people in Central Indiana know and love this show. And really, all I need you to do, your only responsibility on this show, is to keep up with me. So when I'm mentioning things like tutties, or any of this cool hip lingo, just kind of smile and nod and act like you know what's going on.
You know how I can keep
That's
up with it. If I want to get a little extra jolt to make sure that everything's working quickly, not reluctantly, because Wood Warbler Coffee is fantastic and we're happy to be on board with them up in Noblesville. But Derek, you might as well let people know now officially the Hot Cup of Schultz has arrived, right?
That's right, and I have an update on Hot Cup of Schultz sales because it's just been crazy, just flooded. Thank you guys for all of your support, and I do want to get that a little bit later. When you talk about the sales,
how do people get on board with it?
WoodWarblerCoffee.com is how you get Hot Cup of Schultz, so you can order a hot bag, ground or whole bean, 1 pound hot bag.
So that's Wood Warbler and then .com.
WoodWarblerCoffee.com.
Oh, sorry, Wood Warbler Coffee. So that whole thing, WoodWarblerCoffee.com.
So you can order individual bags, or you can get a hot sack of Schultz, which is 3 hot bags. Okay. 3 hot bags in your sack.
Okay.
So every morning when you wake up, put a little Schultz in your cup. Why do you have to make it weird?
You basically just made love to the camera with your eyes. That's weird.
It's called a sales pitch.
Okay.
See, you've never branded anything that you had to sell before, so you don't really know how that works. I understand Derek, representing my brand.
Derek, this brand sells itself. Bucket game's going to happen.
It is.
Think it was going to, and now it is.
We think. I mean, we're taping this right now on Monday.
Subject to change, you're saying?
Yeah, things can change. Indiana is still taking it day to day. They do not have a great COVID situation right now, so it looks like it's back on. I mean, I'm glad they're going to try to play, and Iowa and Michigan got together, and they did a bunch of crossover games for the Big Ten to make up some of these dates. But I don't want to set it in stone, because by the time people are watching this, either on Tuesday or Wednesday, perhaps things have changed. But it's still up in the air, but I'm glad they didn't just completely write it off.
Right.
So that's good.
If you're Indiana, truth be told, do you need to play the bucket game? I mean, I'm not saying Purdue does, but
yeah, that's actually a good question. I think if you're in Indiana, you want to see the bucket game be played. The last time that it hasn't been played was 1919.
I get it, but if you're Indiana,
does it help them?
Indiana this season, they have aspirations and vision beyond just the bucket game. I mean, they have a chance to play in a New Year's Six game.
They have a lot to lose because if they lose to Purdue,
right.
they kiss goodbye the New Year's Six game, and you lose the rivalry game.
And I don't know that they're going to be in a New Year's Six game anyway, right?
I'm pretty sure they will because you have to look at it this way. Iowa State or Oklahoma is going to lose. Florida is going to lose to Alabama. Okay? I think we can go ahead and say that. So there are a lot of teams that are going to be coming backwards that Indiana can jump over here.
What I found interesting? I saw, and I don't believe necessarily in these predictors and percentages. You and I are different in that regard. I'm like, that's why they play games. But there was one that said that Clemson had a 45% chance of getting into the playoffs. So you're telling me they have a 45% chance of beating Notre Dame? They're the favorite in that game.
Yeah, the baseline should be like they're probably a 60-40 favorite to beat Notre Dame.
The only thing I could think is that 60%. Number askewed because if they were to lose to Notre Dame, there is still a chance they would get in. Other things would have to happen.
Yeah, but then that 60% would go up, not down, because we're still talking about, right?
Correct. Yeah, I was like, if they win, they're in.
Yeah.
And there's a more than 50-50 chance they beat Notre Dame, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't think, though.
And I think Notre Dame's really good. Don't get me wrong.
It can't be looked in a vacuum. I'm not as confident that, somebody was asking me on Twitter, is Clemson already locked? And I'm thinking to myself, a 2-loss non-conference champion has never been taken for the playoff. I know this is a weird year, but it's hard to make the playoff with 2 losses, much less 2 losses and no league title.
The team that's skulking around that can sneak their way in? That nobody has talked about?
Probably Oklahoma because they always sneak their way in?
No. I'm telling you. There's one team.
Iowa State if they win the Big 12.
You're having a party, okay? And there are people in the front yard trying to get into your party, and you're letting them in one by one. And there's one neighbor that's just kind of walking past the house slowly that nobody's paying attention to. And when nobody's looking, all of a sudden they're going to be there on the porch trying to get in. And you're like, okay.
Tell me.
USC.
Yeah, what's going to hurt them
they haven't played a lot of games.
What's going to hurt them is the number of games, and the Pac-12 stinks.
Correct.
The Pac-12 stinks like it does every year.
Yeah, they don't have any really big wins, but they're right there just hanging around.
You're helped by
everybody else starts falling off, and then before you know it, and they're a big-time brand.
Let's put this on the table.
Big-time brand.
Whether people want to admit it or not, you are helped by what you just said, your brand. So Indiana's resume, if Indiana had the same exact resume as Michigan right now, they're 7th or 8th in the college football playoff, period. I mean, we could lie about that and say, well, no, Indiana hasn't been the winning team, blah, 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 blah. If Indiana was Penn State, they would be 7th or 8th in the college football playoff right now.
Here's the thing, and I understand that, and I agree with you. And if you're an Indiana fan, as much as you are PO'd by that, rightly so, you have to also understand the number of years, and there were plenty. I mean, I could think off the top of my head. 1990, Indiana goes 8-10 in the Big Ten and doesn't beat anybody with a pulse, and they get in the NCAA tournament because of their brand and Bob Knight. There were other years in the late night years where it's like, yeah, I don't know that they should have been, and then boom, they got in. Or instead of being a 9 seed, they were a 5 seed because they knew they could send them out to Boise and they were going to bring 15,000 fans, etc. So there's a little bit of, I'm not going to say karma.
Yeah, you get it on one end and you don't get it on the other end, obviously, because basketball's reputation is here and football's is way down here. I get that. But, again, I want to be careful because some of this will be a little bit dated because by the time this airs, we'll be about to release the new college football playoff for this week. But I just find it ridiculous that Indiana was behind Miami, who had done nothing outside of surviving a couple of mediocre ACC teams and then getting completely curb stomped by North Carolina. And Georgia has beaten no one all year. Missouri is their best win. Okay, great. Auburn is, chronically overrated Auburn. Who cares?
Speaking of which, Auburn now is going to be looking for a new head coach. Do they call Tom Allen?
Yeah, I think anybody looking for a new head coach calls Tom Allen, of course. But Auburn's one of those teams that you beat them in September when they're ranked 8th. And then they finish out of the polls, and then you come back in December, and you're like, well, we beat Auburn. Who cares? Everybody beat Auburn.
Right.
You know what I mean? They lose like 4 or 5 games every year. That's why they fired their coach, because they underachieve every single year.
Auburn is the Oklahoma State of the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, that's everybody's best win because they lose to everyone. outside of, every other year when they might fluke into a win against Alabama where they get a pass tipped 800 times that gets kicked by a referee and off the head of a fan into the hands of their receiver.
Are you saying Chris Davis returning 109 yards from a field goal?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous that one year where they had not only the Alabama kick six, but the Georgia game as well, where they had this ridiculous set of circumstances to win that game.
Sometimes it's
nuts. I don't know if they sold their soul
lucky.
Or what. But
what do we have to get to on the show today?
We got a ton to get to. Plenty more Colts conversation. Playoff scenarios, what yesterday's win means for them going forward. We'll look at their remaining schedule in Tennessee's as they still are very much alive for the division, even though they need a lot of help in that category. Indiana's situation with the New Year's Six. Ball State, a big win. They're MAC West champions for the first time since 2008. They'll play for a MAC West title against UB coming up here this weekend in Detroit.
UB?
Buffalo.
Okay. UB 40.
I'm not aware of
red wine.
What are we talking about?
Wise men say.
Okay,
only fools rush in. UB40, they're fabulous.
Jake, just flag that, and we'll get that in post.
Okay.
And we'll trip that up. Here, let me start again. Ball State, 2008. Last time they were the MAC West champs. Now MAC West champs again have a chance for the MAC West title against Buffalo.
Okay.
Coming up here.
The Bills?
In Detroit? No.
Okay.
The University of Buffalo.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Also, we've got some Pacer stuff to get to. Them starting their season. They're a week away from the real game starting. Hot Cup of Schultz sales. Man, as always, we are jam-packed today.
Woodwarblercoffee.com.
That's right.
Okay.
It's Query and Schultz. Plenty more to get to next here on ISC Sports Network.
Farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
The drive, the take, fouled, and it goes!
Lobbing it to the back of the end zone. They're going to say it's a touchdown.
Left foot gets through. Goal for Vargas. Hamilton will score!
Oh my God!
We are ripping fast today.
How hard can it be, right?
These are now selling for about $3,500. So we're back to our old ways of pulling rocks.
Act like idiots on camera, open cards, and talk about the hobby.
This portion of the show brought to you by our friends at St. Elmo.
Here,
we can straight bourbon whiskey.
We can do a little. There you go, like a toast.
Yeah, you got to be careful here. These are really
we got to
nice
keep 6 feet away. I realize.
Bottles and labels.
Straight bourbon whiskey, dark cherry, and bourbon vanilla beans.
It's great for the holidays. A week away. God, is it really a week away from Christmas? Yeah, next Saturday. Is that right?
Sure.
I think that's right.
It's the 25th this
and
year. And
Hanukkah for our Jewish friends
That's right.
already underway as well. I'm not sure when Kwanzaa happens, but regardless of what holiday you're celebrating, celebrate it with St. Elmo Straight Bourbon Whiskey, available in many of your local retailers like Myers or Kroger's.
You
or
can make
Targets.
the Elmo Cola, just like you've had at the legendary Indianapolis restaurant, or, of course, at Harry and Izzy's. Since 1902, St. Elmo's been around, and that cola, very simple, just a couple of rocks of ice, put in some cola, and then boom, the St. Elmo Steakhouse Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Do you say rocks
You're
of
good to
ice
go.
or just rocks?
Yeah, I mean, rocks, so I think people would understand what you're saying.
Okay.
You know,
Just making sure, because you nitpick me on the show all the time, so I just want to
just going
see.
by
It
what
doesn't,
it
it doesn't
says right
feel
here,
so
Derek.
good, does it? Colts
Fill
big winners
rocks glass with ice.
against the Raiders, 44-27. Most points they've scored in a game since dropping 49 in 2014. Also, I'm not sure if you guys saw this. The Raiders fired their defensive coordinator. So that always feels good when you cause the opposing team to sack their DC.
Although it makes you, it seems like almost a disrespect to the offense, does it not? These guys, you are so bad that you let Indianapolis drop 44 on you. You're gone.
Yeah, I don't know.
Although not all of those were offensive points, right?
No, because they had the pick six, which
Right.
really sealed it late, the Kari Willis play. But I was just really impressed. You know, it's weird. I saw, I think it was Jim Aiello of the Star had, it might have been Andrew Walker of Colts.com, one of the Colts media people, had a split of the Colts defensive stats from the first half to the second half. And they're kind of a mediocre defense in the first half as far as yards allowed and points allowed. And in the second half, they're one of the best defensive teams in the entire league. I mean, I think they're second in points allowed in the second half. And these wins have followed the same script where the Colts offense has been, you know, pretty consistently good, kind of like the engine that could throughout the four quarters. But the defense has been a little bit shaky in the first half and then completely lights out, you know, put the nail in the coffin in the second half.
I think, Derek, what we're seeing with this team, with the Colts, when they're healthy, and obviously based on NFL standards, they're really healthy right now. And what we're seeing is Chris Ballard's blueprint of just a balanced roster. You know, do they have any 9 out of 10 players? Like, you know, if you're scoring them, you know, guys that would be a 9.0 or higher, you know, they probably have a few. Quentin Nelson in his position, I guess, would be there. Anthony Costanzo's obviously
DeForest
an
Buckner's
excellent
one.
player. DeForest Buckner. But they have – it's more so that they have very few players that are under, say, a 7. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have – if you had to say it, give me 3 Colts starters that you would just say, ugh. That clearly is just because there's no one else at that position.
Oh,
you know, I mean, everybody they have
it's
is
harder to find. Yeah.
Right. You know, I mean, and guys that you don't even talk a lot about.
Because Mark Lewinsky would probably be one because he's kind of the
But he's
weak
been-
link of the line, but he's fine. I
Right.
mean, he's a perfectly capable player.
Look, Braden Smith has played really well.
Yeah.
You know, in all areas, they are very solid. That's just the best way to say it. They're very solid, and they've got an active defense that I really like their defensive backfield. You know, their pass rush. I mean, how long can you believe that we're saying that? They actually have guys that can rush the passer?
Yeah. Well, this
It's been
defensive
forever.
line has been tremendous really all year. I've been surprised how capable their secondary has been. A lot of that has been Xavier Rhodes. Hopefully everything's okay injury-wise for him, but he's played at a Pro Bowl level. TJ Carey has come in and filled in nicely. Kenny Moore's just a playmaker, period. With another just ridiculous play, one-handed interception yesterday, and then I believe a fumble recovery shortly after that. So, look, the defensive turnaround over the last couple of years really is, you talk about Ballard's imprint on this team. It's that. Right. It's the fact that this is not only a really good defense, but it's a defense filled with playmaking guys, and they just hadn't had that really in the past. And a lot of guys that are coming up, like Blackman or somebody like even Kari Willis. You know, Kari Willis is a nice player, and that's a nice find as a deeper round NFL draft pick that has come in and performed at a very solid level.
You know, it makes you – Kenny Moore, if they got into a situation – this would never happen, but if they got into a situation where they really needed it, could he spot Phil at receiver? I mean, after you see that interception he had, you're like, good Lord.
I remember.
I realize that running the route and getting yourself open is 90% of the challenge, but
I remember the Patriots doing that
correct.
the other way around with Troy Brown.
Correct.
Where he was a receiver by trade and they'd play him at corner, and they kind of got away with it. I mean, if we're talking about tinkering, the big experiment yesterday that drew my interest and a lot of others was Quentin Nelson at left tackle, because Costanzo looked like he wasn't quite ready physically to play.
Right.
And God bless him. I mean, he's a guy that really takes care of himself, and he practiced twice last week, and I'm sure he told the coaches, hey, I'm ready to go. And I wonder if he tested it out on Sunday and said,
I think it was a little bit, allegedly there at the very beginning it was tweaked, and it was.
Okay. And then he was overly. Once it's in your head, then.
I know that.
Yeah, you kind of have to get out of there. Luckily, they didn't really need him.
What else jumped out at you around the league, aside from, obviously the Colts game?
Just from a playoff positioning standpoint, Kansas City did the Colts a favor by beating Miami, because that looked a little bit touch and go. That was a really sloppy win for the Chiefs. I think the Jets, at this point, you'd have to say are the odds-on favorite to go 0-16. I usually never
totally
think that
agree.
a team is going to lose every game, but they're completely checked out.
Usually, correct. At some point when a team gets into like the 0-9, 0-10 category, they sneak up and they get one. The Jets now, when you are 0-13 and your 13th is coming at the hands of 40-3,
yeah,
that is not good for the New York Jets.
I think if that was going to come, it was going to come against the Raiders. And then these wild card races are starting to look kind of anticlimactic. I think we have a pretty good idea. Cleveland's going to get a spot at this point. What happened yesterday essentially salts that away for them, and it could be salted further. If Baltimore loses tonight, Cleveland clinches. Sorry, I'm saying tonight. We're taping this on Monday. So if Baltimore, if you're watching this right now and Baltimore lost their Monday night game, that means that I believe Cleveland is already in the playoffs. The Colts put themselves into a 90-91% positioning to make the playoffs, and then there's only one spot left after that, which we'll see if it ends up being Baltimore. I guess Vegas is still involved. The Patriots technically are mathematically alive.
Let me show you something interesting about the NFL, Derek. Okay? I want you to tell me off the top of your head, and we could certainly do this by record, but tell me right now, just off the top of your head, who are right now the 6 worst teams in the NFL?
Oh, geez. The Jaguars, the Jets.
Okay.
You know what? The NFC East has looked a little bit more competent lately, so I don't think I would include any of those teams. I'm trying to think if there's an outlier
include
team.
The Giants?
No. The Giants were in first place on Sunday.
Well, great. They were the starting center for the Lollipop Guild.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think of, who else has, two-something wins. Let me look real quick.
Houston?
No, Houston's not one.
I
don't think Houston's one of the worst teams in the league.
If you're going by record, you're asking bad records.
I'm offended by that.
Cincinnati?
Yeah, Cincinnati, especially now with Burrow out.
Atlanta?
God, the Chargers are 4-9.
Right.
Look at this. How funny is this? The Jets, the Jags, and the Bengals are the only 3 teams that have 2 or fewer wins. Everybody else has at least 4. So here are the 4-win teams: Carolina, Atlanta, Dallas, Philly, Houston, and the Chargers.
Okay.
But I don't know.
But here's
I don't
what's
really
interesting.
think any of those teams are bad.
But here's what's interesting.
They're all okay, I guess.
So those teams you
Or
just
can
mentioned
be.
that all have 1, 2, 3, or 4 wins.
Mm-hmm.
New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, Atlanta, Philadelphia.
Big markets?
Houston. Now, look for me the teams that have 9 or more.
Buffalo.
Okay.
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Cleveland.
Okay.
Indy.
Yep.
Tennessee/Nashville.
Okay.
Kansas City.
Yep.
Green Bay.
Yep.
New Orleans, which is one of the smallest markets in the league. And then you've got L.A. and Seattle in the NFC West.
Okay. Buffalo, the smallest TV markets in the NFL. Jacksonville's one of them, but Buffalo.
Yep.
New Orleans, Green Bay, Indianapolis, Kansas City. I just think it's fascinating because this is what happens when you have not only a salary cap, but revenue sharing. The profit margin is the exact same for every team in the NFL. The NFL, more than any other sport in professional sports, maybe worldwide, it comes down to the competency of your front office. It has nothing to do with, I know that when the city of Indianapolis wanted $720 million for a new stadium, the narrative from within the brass, I'm talking to you, Bill Polian, was it's just really difficult for us to be competitive as a smaller market team. The market size is totally irrelevant in the NFL, completely irrelevant. And it comes down to how good are you at building a roster and building balance. And that's where Chris Ballard gets a lot of credit because they built a balanced roster. It doesn't have to do with going out and spending big-time money and having to pay 3 times what getting in a bidding war. You don't do that in the NFL.
Well, I'll tell you why it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because free agency, for the most part, is not how you build a contender.
Well, correct.
I mean, but in the NBA, market size matters because players want to play in New York and LA and Miami and places like that.
Well, because in the NBA, Derek, to your point, I mean, we're making the same point just in different terms. Free agency in non-revenue sharing, non-hard cap leagues, free agency comes down to the bigger markets have more money to just throw around, and so therefore they always are going to be able to get the Red Sox and the Cubs and the Yankees and the Lakers and the Heat. They're always going to have that advantage because they can just throw money all over the place. Now, the NBA has a cap, but then, of course, it's a soft cap because you have the luxury tax, et cetera, et cetera. NFL, it just comes down to how competent is your front office.
Yeah, I just think what really helps in the NFL is that guys, if you draft somebody like Quentin Nelson or Darius Leonard, you don't lose them because they're with you on that rookie deal for the first couple of years, and then you have a chance to kind of extend them and go on. But when rarely do they actually hit free agency until they're 29 or 30 years old.
And when they do hit free agency, for the most part, the offer that you can extend to them is pretty on par with the offer that anybody else is going to be able to expend. The only teams that would be able to go out and give Quentin Nelson a 60% pay raise over what he would be slotted to make in Indianapolis would be teams that had to create that much room under the salary cap, and therefore Quentin Nelson's like, I don't know, do I want to go somewhere that doesn't have a quarterback?
Yeah. And that's what the NBA tried to do with, making guys RFAs after their rookie deals.
Restricted free agents.
Yeah, RFAs after their rookie deals, and then, but then everybody's leaving after their second contract, or they're just saying, like James Harden or somebody like that, I want out. So trade me right now.
James Harden is a great scorer. He is a great scorer. I don't know that he's a great basketball player. And I don't know why this is, whether he's like Bernard King part 2 or, as I have said, Chris Paul. Chris Paul's a weird one because he's a great player, but yet it has never translated to big-time upper echelon winning for any team he's played. James Harden is a guy, Derek, that he's going to sell tickets and he's a scoring machine, no doubt about it, but for Harden to be all of a sudden demanding that he wants to go to a team A, B, or C is like, for James Harden?
He's really improved as a defender. James Harden, regardless of how you want to shake it, it's really hard to name 6 or 7 players better than James Harden in the NBA.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you can try.
Okay. Kevin Durant.
We have to see post-injury, but yeah, normally I would agree with that.
Anthony Davis.
Sure.
LeBron James.
Yeah, there's LeBron. Okay.
Giannis.
Okay.
Steph Curry.
Honestly, I think they're around the same level.
Okay.
I think a lot of these guys are actually around the same level. Yeah, I guess, gun to my head, I might take Kawhi.
Paul George.
No, absolutely not.
Jimmy Butler.
No.
Jimmy Butler, man, he's got something in him where game's
on
the line.
I love Jimmy Butler, but I wouldn't take Butler. I love Butler's mentality, and I wish Harden. I think Harden might lack that a little bit, even though I feel like I've kind of come around on James Harden. Yeah, Luka would be in the argument. I don't know if I'm ready to say that yet, but he will be.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 right there you agreed to.
Yeah.
That puts him at 7th.
But still, if you're a top 7 NBA player, you're a
I understand, but
talent.
I don't know that he is the straw that mixes the drink the way he thinks he is. I think he's a wonderful player to watch. I think he's a great scorer. I don't know that if James Harden has an off night, I don't know that you win. You know what I mean? Because he's not, by being on the floor, everyone else is not playing better. They just stand around and watch him.
But regardless, getting back to your overall point, the NFL, you don't have this happen a lot where players are holding guys,
Right.
teams hostage, and the contract situation is a little bit different. Hard cap, soft cap, luxury tax. There are lots of things that make the NFL a little bit more parity.
Okay, when it comes to NFL transition of roster and players' movements and et cetera, we're going to have to start talking about it because of his age and because we knew that it was a one-year deal that was thought to kind of be an understanding of a potential for a second. I personally believe you bring Phillip Rivers back. I think he's playing really well. He's very reliable. He's not turning the ball over. You know exactly what you're going to get. He's still able to put the ball where it needs to go. Carson Wentz's name especially, and look, Philadelphia, the Eagles are going to do what everybody does, Derek. They're going to fall in love with Jalen Hurts because I saw it already. People are saying, that's it, like hand the keys over to Jalen Hurts. It's been one game.
Yeah.
It's been one game. Wonderful college player. Seems like a nice guy. He's got talent. But didn't the Eagles learn from Carson? Remember Carson Wentz in his rookie year? I mean, it was like, this is, oh my goodness, like they're going to build the statue next to Rocky in Philadelphia for Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I mean, in 2017 or whatever, you thought that he might be the MVP.
And for whatever reason, he's regressed. Does that mean that, because you're going to hear a lot of chatter, the Colts go out and get Carson Wentz because Frank Reich coached with him and he loves him. Look, he's scheduled to make $30 million a year. And I know Philadelphia apparently is willing to eat some of that money if they can unload him. First off, it would be foolish of Philadelphia to unload Carson Wentz because there's not enough body of work to know if Jalen Hurts is the guy or not. But if you are the Colts, is Phillip Rivers simply your transitional year, or does it become a 2-year thing and you bring him back? I bring him back.
Oh, I think at this point, with what we know right now, I think you have to bring him back. But still, I think this is a decision that's going to be made on the body of work. So
I think the body of work's pretty good.
Well, but I don't want to cop out on this. If Rivers falters down the stretch and then flubs in a playoff game, maybe that changes your line of thinking. But I've been really impressed, Jake, with what he's been able to do. And I said it Sunday night on Twitter, that the best compliment that I could give to Phillip Rivers in these last 6 or 7 weeks is that when you've watched the Colts game, you haven't thought about Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
I mean, his play has been so good,
he's very
consistently good.
You're right.
That his play's become a non-topic.
Well, not only that, but I think that he just has like a swagger about him and a leadership about him that has resonated with them. I think that when he's out there, I think his Colts teammates trust him and believe in him and feel confident with him at the helm.
I mean, this has become a really good to elite passing offense. I mean, right now, entering this next week, following this game against Vegas, they're 5th in EPA. I mean, for a pass offense, expected points added. So for a pass offense to be a top 5
what does that even mean?
EPA team, that's really, really impressive.
Whereas
Whereas they're 20th.
Honestly,
run.
what is expected points added?
I don't have time to get into all the minutia
honestly,
of all the advanced statistics.
Totally,
and all
I'm being
today.
totally serious because I don't know.
But it's been
and
really,
I'm assuming there are other people out there
really
that
impressive.
Don't know. What does that mean?
I don't have access to the DVOA anymore because Football Outsiders is now a pay model, so I don't know what the DVOA rankings are.
In all seriousness, expected points added means what?
They take it's a lot like what happens with DVOA, where you take every play and then there's an outcome that you think of the play, like
a Jordan Wilkins run is expected to be 3 yards.
Or something along those lines, and then if it goes over that, they analyze every single play, and then it's added value to that, and they have some formula that they come up with, like what Football Outsiders and DVOA, where they can do it offensively and defensively, and it spits out whatever number it is, and, Kansas City is here for this, pass offense-wise, and, I don't know, the Jets are here with it, or Carson Wentz is down on the bottom with it, with where it's at.
You know that I flunked algebra, right?
There just are no statistic, Jake, is the end-all, be-all. It's just something interesting to look at besides quarterback rating and yards per carry and the traditional stats that we look at. I like looking at these as just kind of, giving us more of a focus on how this team is overall. So it's just about adding everything up. It's not just taking one thing or the other thing.
I noticed that in-game statistics, there are now 2 different quarterback ratings.
Well, they're using QBR a lot, which I think was an ESPN concoction.
Okay.
So that's their own quarterback rating system, and I don't even know how that's calculated.
And then there's rating.
And then there's quarterback rating, the traditional quarterback rating. So completions, attempts, So a percentage plus TD-INT ratio, and then it spits out whatever it spits out.
Right.
But traditionally, if you had a quarterback rating over 100, that was like, oh my God, MVP level. And now I think the top half of the league is all over 100.
You go in a game.
Right around
this
there.
guy's got 158 going right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, that's college. It's much higher. Yeah. But in the NFL, if you had it triple digits,
is college on a curve or something?
I don't know how they do it. College is the quarterback rating is a higher number for some reason.
What else do we have to get to here?
You mean you don't want to keep talking about this?
No.
Okay.
I'm done with the QBR warp DVOA.
We have some college football stuff to get to. Not only kind of wrapping up our thoughts about the bucket and if it's played at all, and the college football playoff, but Notre Dame, Clemson, and their rematch, the playoff just in general, which I think there's not a lot of there's a chaos situation which we'll outline, but I think for the most part we pretty much know who the 4 teams are going to be if everything plays out as it should play out coming up this weekend. So we'll get into that in a little bit of an update on Hot Cup of Schultz sales as well.
Okay.
It's Query and Schultz. Back with more next here on ISC Sports Network.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching, barn needs cleaning, tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
You can't get enough of us. Good one, J-Man.
This is the worst scandal. This
is worse than steroid. Not so fast.
Are you going to watch the XFL?
I'll probably watch a little bit of it.
You want to go through and pick some games?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't.
Oh my God! We are ripping fast today.
How hard can it be, right?
These are now selling for about $3,500. So we're back to our old ways of pulling rocks.
Act like idiots on camera, open cards, and talk about the hobby.
Because Brian saved 5 lives and started a movement. Because Lester is a hero as a veteran and an organ donor.
Because Allie's legacy lives on.
Because I know how quickly it can be taken away.
I'm driven.
I am driven to save lives.
I'm driven to save lives. Are you?
More than 4 million Hoosiers have teamed up with Indiana Donor Network to save lives. Sign up to become an organ donor at driven2savelives.org.
The drive, the take, fouled, and it goes!
Lobbing it to the back of the end zone. They're going to say it's a touchdown.
Left foot gets through. Goal for Vargas. Hamilton will score!
What are you doing?
Waiting for you.
What are you waiting for?
You are supposed to bring us into this next.
You know what I was doing? I was currently looking over all of the fabulous programs available from WGU.
Good
WGU.
save.
What?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't like that?
Mm-hmm.
WGU.edu, Indiana. Now, here's the thing about WGU, which is Indiana's accredited online university. You know, when it comes down to it, folks, what you want to do is you want to get down to business, especially if you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I could use a business degree. That's the great thing about WGU. They now have the opportunity for you to be able to get a business degree and do so with your hours. The flexibility of when you want to work, when you want to take those classes, maybe at night once the kids have gone to bed, that's when you bunker down and you spend a couple of hours going over. It's all flexible, and it's all an accredited online university. Ambition never rests, and WGU is always there for you. Indiana.wgu.edu is the website, or is that wgu.indiana.edu? I've got two different things here. Can we do this in post?
We can. Yeah, we can clean that up a little bit. Just have Jake flag it in there. There you go.
Now, Jake, that's me.
Well, there's another Jake. I know that you don't. This is, for those that don't know, we had an internship program at our old station.
WGU.indiana.edu.
We had an internship program at WNDE at our old station we were at, and Jake called every one of our interns, and we probably had about 15 over the years come through, including Sam Rumsa, who we actually both built friendships with, who you strictly called Jimmy.
Yeah, it's easy.
So every single intern was just have Jimmy do it. But here we have a very talented crew at ISC with, sometimes Wes is in here, Jake is over there. Sometimes Jordan's in the control room. Even Rake and Greg Mash sometimes run cameras. Well, there's two Gregs. There's two Jakes.
Okay.
So we have a lot of kind of name jumbling.
Which one is Jake?
Right there, with the mask on.
Oh, it's Jimmy.
She's waving?
Yeah, it's Jimmy.
Jake, we've been doing this show for 4 months. You don't know everybody's name in here by now? These are all now my coworkers.
I'm not good with names.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to my coworkers that you have to deal with this. This is what you're going to have to learn to deal with like I have over the past decade or so.
Okay.
Let's get back into the college football talk. So we kind of outlined Indiana in their New Year's Six Bowl. If they win, they're going to put themselves in a good position because a lot of the teams that are currently ahead of them are going to come back because they're still slated to lose. By default, Iowa State or Oklahoma is going to have to lose. And I think at this point, what's Florida, like a 14-point underdog to Alabama? I haven't even looked at the latest line, but after their loss, I think they're in trouble. But playoff-wise, I texted you this actually on Saturday night. Florida losing to LSU, I think actually really hurts Texas A&M. I think there was a scenario where if Notre Dame got not necessarily boat raced, but lost handily, let's say by 17 points to Clemson.
Which is not going to happen.
There was a chance that A&M or the committee would look at A&M and say, well, A&M beat the SEC champion in Florida. They only have one loss. They weren't competitive against Alabama. But still, with the freshness of the wound of Notre Dame's loss to Clemson, a one-sided loss, they might look at A&M and say, hey, let's put them in the playoff instead of Notre Dame. But now that A&M, all they have is a win over 3-loss Florida, that's the best thing that they can show. I don't know if their resume really stacks up well with Notre Dame because regardless of what happens in the ACC championship game, Notre Dame, yes, against a shorthanded Clemson team, but still will have a win over Clemson, and basically their resume and A&M's resume is the exact same.
I think Notre Dame's in.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Notre Dame's not going to get blown out by Clemson.
If they got embarrassed by Clemson, I think that would be shaky ground. But I think that Florida win hurts A&M.
I look at it this way, Derek. There are 4 teams. Alabama, in no particular order. Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State. Okay? Those 4 teams clearly have become
control their own
Class
destiny.
4. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
They are in your mind already, those 4, as that's the 4. Nobody else has done anything to cement themselves as, hey, keep us in this conversation. A&M, yeah. Florida, meh.
Yeah, and Cincinnati.
Cincinnati,
I
understand.
Haven't played anybody.
Nothing against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
SMU,
unfortunately, Cincinnati's a victim of their own circumstance. Unfortunately, USC, because their name is USC and they're unbeaten, is going to be talked about. They're going to get some conversation. But here's what I would say with Clemson and Notre Dame, which feels like it could be an entry game. It's only if Clemson blows Notre Dame out, then that maybe boots Notre Dame out. And you could certainly say, well, that makes no sense because they would be 1-1 against each other. Except for that, round 1 was in Notre Dame, and Clemson was down 3 of their best defensive players and their all-world quarterback. So the committee could look at it and say, yeah, we take that. They have a .75 win and a 1.0 loss. I'm not saying Notre Dame's even going to lose to Clemson. What Clemson will want to do, Clemson likes to throw like little bubble screens to Amari Rodgers to get their offense kind of going and soften things up, and then, boom, they hit you with the big plays. Notre Dame's defense is good enough to keep that in check, and if Notre Dame's defense is able to continue to corral those bubble plays, Clemson could be in for a long night. And Notre Dame then is in, and then it becomes a question of, does a 2-loss Clemson get in with their 2 losses both being Notre Dame? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine the committee taking a 2-loss team without a conference title.
Ohio State's in. Would you agree?
No. I think Ohio State has to beat Northwestern. The only team that's in right now is Alabama. Alabama, there is no scenario where Alabama does not make the playoffs. If
Northwestern loses to Ohio State, if Ohio State loses to Northwestern, does Northwestern go?
No.
No, why not? They're the Big Ten champion to beat Ohio State.
I think you look at the 2-loss Big 12 champion at that point of being in front in the pecking order of Northwestern.
Okay.
I do. Because it's a perception thing. Again, this is what we talked about.
Does
it says
a 2-loss
Northwestern on their
Big
jersey.
12 champion get in over 2-loss Clemson?
Yes.
If Clemson loses,
I think
you think they're out?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not saying definitely out. I think they're out if they lose, though. Because really all you have, they have the Miami win, but really Virginia Tech with Clemson's same exact resume has no prayer of making the playoff. We're more going to give Clemson the benefit of the doubt because they're Clemson and they're in the midst of this dynasty.
Right.
But let's face it, it'd be just a notoriety play.
You know what I was thinking about yesterday? Christmas is coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've ever heard. You hear about people that will stake out a house, like they know, that somebody robs somebody, especially during the holidays, unfortunately, that they've been staking it out for a while.
Yeah, like Home Alone, the whole plot
They
of Home
get to
Alone.
know the plot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we never hear about people that stake out a house and then they want to get in, that go in through the chimney? Doesn't that seem like that'd be a way to get into people's houses? You never hear about it. If you know that people are gone.
Unless you have Santa's Christmas magic, you can't fit in the chimney.
How do you know? I don't know. Like, what's the width?
Have you ever been up there and you ever looked in a chimney?
No, what's the width of it? Like in a big mansion, they have huge chimneys.
Well, they've got big brick tubes, but the tops of them,
I understand that's not the width of the chimney,
it's not
but
all open.
I'll bet it can be done. Nobody's ever tried it.
Somebody.
You would have to do some exploring and look down and spelunking a little bit.
See, I don't even think so. Somebody that's my size, not now because I've been lifting a lot lately, so I'm too broad. But
Okay.
somebody normally that would be like a less built version of me might have a chance of getting in there. But I don't think so. Somebody like you would have no prayer.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, you're a larger person, both in height and a little bit in girth. So
you think I'm fat? Is that
no, nothing like that.
I'm just saying,
I'm trying to word this.
You're calling me fat.
Anyone in comparison
fat
to me
guy had
looks
a heart
like
attack.
they
Is
might
that what
be
you're
a
saying?
little bit out of shape.
The fat guy from the heart attack. Do I? Hold on. Do I look out of shape?
No, you look fine.
This shirt, by the way, fantastic shirt. This is what the Indianapolis, obviously when they won in 1986, the American Association. This is the shirt that Max Schumacher had made and was running around. And so the shop Indy, theshopindy.com, 920 Broad Ripple Avenue. You can see it right here. Or as well in Carmel Clay Terrace. This is just one of the many, many stores. That's right. The many shirts available at the shop.
They're great. And all the ones up here, obviously, as well, that are part of it.
That leads to another question, Derek, as we segue so eloquently. The Cleveland Indians are changing their name.
Mm-hmm.
The Indianapolis Indians have hired, right before really COVID and everything happened, an exploratory group to look over whether or not Indians needs to be changed from Indianapolis. If Indianapolis was to change the name of their baseball franchise, other than just calling them American ASA champs, what would you go with?
Ooh, I would love ABCs.
Correct. I think that's it.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea of arrows, kind of that, what was it, the 80s campaign to bring Major League Baseball here. I think you could go in a lot of different directions, something that's celebrated. Because, regardless of how you feel about the name Indians, it's generic. It's like calling your team the Wildcats. You know what I mean? For the most part, I don't think it's really steeped in much of anything. They've just always been called the Indianapolis Indians, right? And Indiana, obviously, with Indians and all of that. But something that reflects the city, I would really like to see, and its heritage. And I think the ABCs or the arrows or something that kind of harkens back to that past would work.
The thing about the Cleveland Indians, and I've asked friends that are Native American whether or not Indians is offensive to them. And it's not so much the term that's offensive to them as it is the caricatures that come
Chief
with
Wahoo. I think we could agree was offensive.
And the Indianapolis Indians, their current logo is pretty innocuous, but they have had in the past also logos of a character, cartoonish Indian. Will they move on from the Indians name? I don't know. Maybe they get a little bit more of a pass because, as you mentioned, it is Indiana, land of Indians. But if they had to change the name or they decide to do so, I think ABCs, which, again, American Beverage Company, they have an ABC shirt at the shop, by the way. Oscar Charleston, who's an Indianapolis native and a Baseball Hall of Famer, was a player for the ABCs. They won a championship back in, I believe it was 1915. I think ABCs would be cool. Arrows would be cool too, though, from tribute to the Art and Gotti efforts to get a major league team.
It's kind of a difficult conversation, Jake, because I don't really feel, not that it's my place as a white guy to say how I feel about it, even though it's 2020, right? We're supposed to say how we feel all the time. That's the whole point of social media. I've never felt that the Indians, I think there's a clear line of difference between Redskins, which is never okay to say in any other context outside of the football team or formerly the football team, and Indians, which is just kind of, whatever term. But I also think that we're just kind of at a time right now in American society where we're moving on from some things. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it just feels like, is the Indians the worst thing that ever happened? Is it like this year? I think Chief Wahoo is embarrassing, don't get me wrong, but is that name itself, has it been keeping everybody up at night? No, I don't think so. But it just feels like this is the right thing to do, that it's just kind of part of the evolution, right? And time to just move on from that name.
I don't disagree, but there is also part of me that's like, well, then where do you draw the line? I mean, for example.
Are the Atlanta Braves going to have to change?
Well, okay. Well, the Braves.
Or are you talking like Dallas Cowboys? And
locally,
stuff like that?
Okay, Indiana Hoosiers. In Missouri, Hoosier means like bumpkin redneck. For a very brief period, Indiana University used for its mascot for Hoosiers the Cornhusker looking guy. The big farmer ripped off his shirt with an eye. Oh, I'm a Hoosier. Well, I'm from Indianapolis. I grew up in Indiana. That's not at all the way I live my life. So, is Hoosiers offensive to me? Where do you draw the line? Because Hoosiers is a group of people.
I think really, yeah, but it's kind of like this. Nobody can really define what it is.
Right.
It means different things. I think when you're talking about actual groups of people, as in obviously Native Americans, that's kind of where
you mean.
Yeah, that's kind of where you draw the line. But this goes back to whatever it was. Was it the Fighting Sioux that had to change their name, and the Sioux were like, "Hey, we're actually cool with this," and they still made him change it anyway. I think sometimes we want to make everything right and wrong and polarizing, and this is either good and we need to defend it and you shouldn't be a snowflake, or this is, oh my God, this is racist and the worst thing in the world. And I don't think Indians really is either. I just think it's one of those things that maybe it's just time for us to move on.
Cleveland Indians surprised me because I had not heard a lot. Chief Wahoo, their logo, yes, but I had not heard a lot of discussion about Indians itself. Now,
they had been phasing out, though, all of that.
You know the idea I came up with for Cleveland?
Well, I think they're going to name them the Spiders, aren't they?
Is that what they are?
Wasn't that
their original team name? In 1915, they were the Cleveland Spiders, a different National League franchise that then went to the American Association, American ASA, as the Indianapolis Indians said. Rock and roll, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland because Alan Freed, who was a disc jockey on Cleveland radio, introduced the term rock and roll when he said, this new music sounds like rock and roll. You can rock and roll to it. And the song, apparently or allegedly, that he was playing when he first said that was Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley and the Comets. So I think Cleveland Comets.
I never knew that.
Yeah. Cleveland Comets.
Well, weren't they? Oh, wait, no, I'm thinking WNBA. They were the Rockers, and then the Houston franchise in the WNBA was the Comets.
Correct.
Rockers would be kind of cool.
Yeah, Rockers isn't bad.
But I like spiders. They're fearsome. You can make a cool logo out of a spider.
Hey, I watched
Richmond Spiders have a great logo.
The Richmond West Virginia basketball game over the weekend, which been a long time since I sat down and watched an entire college basketball game. It happened to be on. I watched it. Richmond was undefeated, and West Virginia handled them pretty easily. But Richmond, 88 NCAA tournament, they upset Indiana, the defending national champs. Joe Hillman airballed out of the corner a three that would have won it. I broke my parents' telephone that day. I was so upset about it.
Mm-hmm. One of those rotary dials.
But that Richmond Spider is cool. It's a good sound effect. What do we have to get to next?
We have all our features to touch on when we come back. So you get everything: sight, sound, taste,
rotary phone,
hot cup of Schultz, and all of that here on Query and Schultz.
Okay.
All of our features to get to, including Behind Us, The Shop, and Buy It or Bull Bleep, coming your way next. ISC Sports Network. It's Query and Schultz. Stick around.
You can't get enough of us. Good one, J-Man.
This is the worst scandal. This might
This
even
is
be
worse than steroid. Not so fast.
Are you going to watch the XFL?
I'll probably watch a little bit of it.
You want to go through and pick some games?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't.
Oh my God! We are ripping fast today.
And how hard can it be, right?
These are now selling for about $3,500. So we're back to our old ways of pulling rocks.
Act like idiots on camera, open cards, and talk about the hobby.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
The drive, the take, fouled, and it goes!
Lobbing it to the back of the end zone. They're going to say it's a touchdown.
Left foot gets through. Goal for Vargas. Hamilton will score!
Welcome back. It's Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network, rolling right along. This portion of the show brought to you by our friends at the American Dairy Association of Indiana. Winners drink milk. And,
So
of course, we have the milk. But, Jake, you are the one that has the milk facts.
I do.
Today, yeah. I know 10
sure?
cups of raw spinach for one serving of
Do I
ice
really?
cold milk.
Oh, here it is right here. Okay, I'll do it to you in trivia form.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
We love the American Dairy
As much
Association,
potassium
by the
as a
way.
banana.
You know, they sent me a box of milk chocolate cigars.
I told them to do that.
You did?
Yeah, they said, do you have any ideas for Jake? And I said, well, it's got to be something milk-related, so he likes cigars. So do they still make chocolate cigars? Because I remember that being a thing like when I was
Milk
a kid.
chocolate cigars, baby. They sent me an entire box. Here we go. Chocolate milk, nature's recovery drink for athletes, like myself. I'm an athlete, Derek. Perfect mix of carbs and protein. Why are you laughing?
Oh, nothing.
To
I had something
rebuild
in my throat.
muscles, restore fluid, and electrolyte loss. Here are your milk fun facts. Okay?
Not fun facts, just facts. Straight facts.
1 8-ounce serving of low-fat chocolate milk right here. As much calcium as how many cups of raw spinach, Derek?
10 of them. 10.
That is correct.
Yep.
As much potassium as what?
A full, large banana.
Nanners, as my buddy Joe Moran calls them.
Mm-hmm.
As much vitamin A as how many boiled eggs?
Uh-oh. This is the one that's always trips me up because I think hard-boiled eggs are gross. 4 of them.
Reb Porter knows the answer.
2.
Very well done. Winnersdrinkmilk.com is where you can find out more about milk and all of those fun facts that we so eloquently expedited our way through.
You want me to start?
Sure.
My pick this week, Sarah Fuller, the Vanderbilt kicker, completed an extra point. First female to ever score a point in a Power 5 college football game. And for some reason, some people are really upset about that, but I'm just choosing to enjoy it for what it is. Even if it's a big publicity stunt, Jake, because Vanderbilt stinks, who cares? Who's it harming to have her come in and kick an extra point?
Okay.
Right? I mean, does it really bother you in your manhood that a female came out and, well, that should go to something? Who cares? It's the extra point of a freaking Vanderbilt. Who cares? Just live your life.
Okay.
Sarah Fuller is my winner of the week.
Okay.
Sorry to get emotional.
I'm going to go with, speaking of, in that case, Power 5, college football, somebody who we've talked about on this program before that played collegiately outside the Power 5, and as a result of that, there were people that questioned him coming into the NFL, and he had some questionable tweets when he was like 15 years old. But after the Bills-Steelers game, I saw an interview with Josh Allen, the quarterback of the Bills, which was interesting to me because as he was being interviewed, two different Steelers players came by to, like, give him some dap, as we used to say. Come behind him and, big win, brother, that kind of thing. And I'm like, wait, he just beat you. But Josh Allen, in the way that he carried himself, appears to be a guy who has matured into becoming a genuine leader in the NFL. And I hate to use the term arm talent, Derek, but he's got it. He has emerged into a guy that's become the epicenter of this revitalization of Buffalo Bills football. And they're right on the cusp of breaking through and becoming a pretty darn good franchise. But a lot of people doubted him. He was not heavily recruited out of high school, sent his own tapes out, wanted to play at Fresno State. They blew him off, so he ended up at Wyoming and made the best of it there, and now appears to be a guy that's going to be around the league for a long time. So I'll go with Josh Allen.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar path to what I took. Overlooked, undervalued for a long time. Kind of had to work my way up, and I had to control a lot of things myself. And then, people realize, hey, wait a minute, this kid's a star, and everything else just kind of comes from that, the success, the wild riches, all of it, and the pressures of day-to-day life. But it's something that, it's a cross I bear.
Do you have arm talent?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have talent in all four of my limbs.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you do. Limb talent.
Oh, God. Don't even joke about that because we will have limb talent at some point. You know that, right?
Correct.
They'll make that into a thing. Time for our Love That Play as well. Our friends Chris and John Love and the rest of the crew.
It's a no-brainer.
Have been around for 100 years. Love-HVAC.com, 353-2141. Just about to get into, well, we're already kind of into the winter months, even though it's still technically fall right now. But give them a call if you need your furnace
24-hour
or
maintenance.
AC serviced.
They love coming out and taking a look preemptively at your furnace, make sure everything's in line. How do you last 100 years as a local product? Well, I'll tell you how, because you have knowledge of that product. You have a great product to begin with, but customer satisfaction and, of course, customer service. That's what you get with Love Heating and Air, love-hvacc.com. Derek, I think this is a no-brainer, but I'll let you go first with our Love That Play. Favorite play from over the weekend.
Can we pick Kenny Moore 2 weeks in a row?
That's got to be it,
I mean,
though.
we just had Kenny Moore last week.
I know, but it's got to be it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go with the Kari Willis pick 6. But
but they threw it right to him.
That Kenny Moore play.
I could make that pick.
I mean, a one-handed leaping – the leaping ability alone was unbelievable, but the one-handed grab and then being able to secure it when you come down, look, that play, I mean, not just in Indianapolis, but across the country, people are like, oh, my goodness, look at what this guy just did.
I mean, I said it a couple of weeks ago when Nyheim Hines was doing backflips in Detroit. I just don't think, we kind of become numb to it from watching football or just major pro sports all the time, but I don't think we properly appreciate the amount of athleticism that it takes, even just to be, Nyheim Hines is a nice player, but not a star or anything like that. But even just to be Nyheim Hines, you have to be at this certain level athletically that only a handful of people on the entire planet can be at. And Kenny Moore, what an athlete and what a play. It's one of the best interceptions that I've seen ever.
Impressive.
I mean, I don't want to be too hyperbolic or anything, but my God, what a play.
It's impressive.
And it really kind of changed the tone because it felt like they were trading punches. And after that, the Raiders just kind of went into a shell. They scored that garbage time tud late, but for the most part, they didn't do anything after that outside of a GT tud.
We get to Buy It or Bull Schultz next?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay.
And then we're going to wrap up the show. When we return, it's Query and Schultz. ISC Sports Network, back for a final time next.
Indiana Dairy Farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching, barn needs cleaning, tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
enough of us. You can't get enough of us. Good one, J-Man.
This is the worst scandal. This
is worse than steroid. Not so fast.
Are you going to watch the XFL?
I'll probably watch a little bit of it.
You want to go through and pick some games?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't.
Oh my God! We are ripping fast today. How hard can it be, right? These are now selling for about $3,500. So we're back to our old ways of pulling rocks.
Act like idiots on camera, open cards, and talk about the hobby.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
The drive, the take, fouled, and it goes!
Loving it.
Back for a final time here on Query and Schultz. I'm Derek Schultz, Jake Query here as well. Remember that our show also in podcast form, so iTunes, Spotify, our old pals at iHeart, Stitcher, Spreaker. I think it's on SoundCloud as well.
Spreaker has a fabulous root beer. Have you had that?
QueryandSchultz.com/watch if you want details on how to listen as well. Also, we're going to upload episodes if you're we want to give first dibs to our ISC Network subscribers, obviously. So if you're a subscriber, thank you. $4.99 a month. It's a great deal. You can watch on the app, or you can watch anytime on ISCSportsNetwork.com. Or if you're a Comcast subscriber, Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock and replays throughout the week in Indiana on Channel 81. And then on YouTube on our Query and Schultz channel every Friday. So backdated a little bit, we put up each episode.
And speaking of networks, Derek, we should also thank, of course, Indiana Donor Network. Did you know that there is no age limit nor age restriction in any way, shape, or form to become an organ donor? And it's very simple to do. For example, when you get your driver's license, they ask you the questions, would you like to be an organ donor? You can save up to 8 lives by becoming an organ donor. You can save up to 75 lives by becoming a tissue donor. The Indiana Donor Network, we are not only appreciative of their involvement with this show, but also in helping to extend and continue lives and legacies throughout not only Indiana, but the United States as well.
Time for Buy It or Bull Bleep. Brought to you by our friends at The shopindy.com for all your holiday shopping. Also, their brick-and-mortar store. Shirts available. If you don't want to worry about it getting shipped to you in time, you can go to Clay Terrace or on the Strip in Broad Ripple to either one of their 2 Indianapolis area locations. But if you're new to Buy It or Bull Bleep, here's what we do. I give a statement.
You got milk on the Marsh shirt, Derek. What are you doing? Yes, you did. Look.
Oh, that was I don't want to throw him under the bus, but Greg Rakestraw is our official milk pourer, so that was Greg that did that.
Well, we need to get somebody from the American Dairy Association. We need to get Jenny to come over and be our milk pourer because we got chocolate milk on our Turkey Run shirt and regular milk on our Marsh shirt.
It's probably time to wash some of the items on this desk anyway, or at least sanitize them.
The Amalia shirt?
Like our sage and, the Anvil's okay because that's pure, cold, hard steel.
I'm taking the Amalia shirt home with me.
But the rest of it we should probably
because I worked at Amalia's.
Here's what we do with Buy It or Bull Bleep, because I'm just going to repeat it.
I'll take the Marsh shirt home, too.
I give a statement. Jake and I go back and forth whether we buy it or it's Bull Bleep. All right, you ready for statement 1?
Yes.
No one can compete with Alabama this season. They will be the national champion. Buy it or Bull Bleep.
Oh, I think they're certainly the front runner. They've got dynamic receivers, no doubt about it. But I think Clemson can hang with them. I think Notre Dame's defense is really good. And I think Ohio State's awfully good. I really do think any of those 4, there are weaknesses among all 4 of them. Alabama's weaknesses might be the hardest to find. They're the favorite, Derek, but I will say Bull Schultz because I think that any of those 4 you throw them in the hopper have a chance to win.
Unlike in 2012 and right around that time when the SEC had like 6 of the top 10 or 12 teams in the country, the league itself, the top has remained really strong, but the middle and bottom this year especially has been kind of You know what I mean? Like, if you look through the standings, Kentucky, Tennessee, South Carolina, Ole Miss, LSU, Arkansas, Miss State, those were all extremely mediocre teams this year. And Vanderbilt was downright terrible. I mean, they didn't win a single game. So, yes, Alabama boat raced A&M, which is a great win, and I'm not taking anything away from them. But remember, in the past when we've kind of approached this, there's been one team that has beaten, like, 3 top 15 teams, and they've clearly been this dominant force. And while I think Alabama clearly is the odds-on favorite to win the national championship and is number one for a reason, I don't view them as this like unstoppable force that maybe the 2012 team was, or there was one of those other years.
Or LSU last year.
They were just, you kind of came to appreciate, I think, after the fact, just how historically amazing LSU was.
They're good.
So I don't think that they're on that level. But, yeah, I do think that they're going to be the national champion. So I guess I'll buy it because I'd be really surprised if somebody beat them. I just don't think that they're like some historically untouchable team.
Okay.
But I still would be surprised if somebody beat them. So I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth here. Statement 2. Oh, this is a college basketball one. Buy it or bull bleep. 2 out of the 3 Power 6 Indiana teams will miss the NCAA tournament. Butler, Indiana, and Purdue. We call it Power 6 because I think the Big East belongs in the discussion with the other Power 5 conferences.
2 out of the 3 will miss it?
I mean, Butler's in real danger. They were picked, I think, 8th or 9th in the Big East. Like they're not viewed as an NCAA tournament team. And, Purdue and Indiana so far, it's been a little bit of a rocky start, even though I think both of those teams are going to get better.
Do we know if they're going to have an NCAA tournament?
No, but I shouldn't say that. An NCAA tournament will be played this year. They can't afford to not have one, I don't think, for the second year in a row.
You're saying
you have to – how about this? Under the context or pretext of you have to earn your way in traditional measures as opposed to just letting 128 teams or something play in a tournament, which they might do.
I will say only one of those 3 gets in.
So you're going to buy it?
I buy it, yes.
I'm going to say bull bleep. I think Indiana and Purdue still get in. I think both of those teams are going to get a lot better as the season goes on. They're still relying on a lot of youngsters, especially in Purdue's case, and they've had not such a great injury situation.
The Big Ten's just really good. You know what I mean? I mean, there's some good teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and that's the problem for Indiana. You let these games go against FSU, and then you've got to find a way to beat Illinois or Iowa or somebody that's really, really good, and it's going to be tough for them. Indiana's just got to get better guard play. They just need guys that can knock down shots. You just can't live in today's basketball world. You can't live trying to win games 60-55. And that's great that Indiana's become this great defensive team with Archie Miller, but if you can't knock down open shots and you can't hit threes, who cares? You're not going anywhere like that.
Armand Franklin becomes a very important player for them because he appears to be the one that can at least be the most consistent from the outside.
I mean, they can drive. Their guards are good driving. Right. It's just, can Rob Finney knock down an open shot? Because if he can make an open shot, it doesn't sound like much, but if he can knock down an open shot, then Indiana's going to be a much better offensive team. So I'm still going to say that both of those teams end up making it. And statement 3, something that we spent a good portion of today's show on. I think we're both in the same group here. Bite or bold bleep, the Indianapolis Indians should change their name.
Do you know, Derek, that I still have the bow tie that I had to wear at Amalia's?
Really?
Yeah, we had to wear bow ties at Amalia's.
It's kind of weird that you kept that.
Myself, Ty Garrick, Dana Daniels, Will Higgins, Scott McConnell, Dewey Williams worked there as well.
God, everything in your life involves
Steve
Dewey.
Beaver, John Gundrum.
Dewey.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's a good time. It's a great question about the Indianapolis Indians, and I understand and respect both sides of it. They have commissioned a group of people, as I understand it, to explore that. If Native Americans, I don't know that it's my decision to make. If Native Americans say, look, we consider, I don't think that any.
But I don't even think you can get all of the, a unanimous decision on something like that, right? People.
Well, you can't get a unanimous decision
regardless
on anything.
of what your ethnic group is.
But I think, Derek, I don't know that the term Indians is offensive to Native Americans. It's the imagery. And the Indianapolis Indians, for the last 30 years, have come up with an imagery and a brand that is innocuous and favorable. But when they had, the caricature of the little Indian with the baseball head and he's twirling it around and he's got the big grin, I understand that. That was a long time ago. The Cleveland Indians had Chief Wahoo as on their hat, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. I think that's a decision for the people who it would be offensive towards. Hey, is this still offensive to you? And if they say, look, we don't want, as a people, we don't want to be considered as sports teams. I think the thing, here's what I would say, Derek. And I understand it. This is political correctness gone amok. Okay, but put yourself in the shoes of the people that we're talking about. And that is this. When you as a people, and sure, you can put Hoosiers in this category, whatever, but when eventually the identity of your ethnicity becomes more synonymous with sports teams than it does your own heritage and culture, then I could see how people are like, you know what, enough.
Yeah.
We're more than a baseball team in Cleveland and Indianapolis and a basketball team in Milan. We are a group of people with a heritage and a history and a legacy, and that's what we need to be known for. Okay. Who am I to tell those people their sentiments are wrong?
Yeah, that's well stated, as you usually are able to do with topics like this. Should implies that it's racist and horrible. I think I would put it as they should change the name because this is just kind of where we're going. It's time to end ethnic groups, I guess, as sports mascots, because there's a number of things you can name a sports team after. It seems to be silly to kind of do the mascot and trivialize it, and then people say, well, Schultz, what about Fighting Irish, right? Because yeah, okay, fine, then take that one out too. I mean, I'm not going to lose any sleep over this.
Right.
But it just feels like we're trending that way, so you might as well get in front of it and go ahead and follow suit just like Cleveland just did.
Fair enough.
Final thing before we wrap up, because people have been clamoring for it, Hot Cup of Schultz sales have just been crazy. Just wild. Everybody wants a little Hot Schultz in their cup.
Okay.
As reflected by those sales.
Well, I think everybody wants Wood Warbler coffee because not only is it, bird safe, bird friendly coffee, we know that, but it's also local. Jeff
Noblesville. Yep.
I realize his name is Jeff Canada, but he's right here in Noblesville, and trust me, I've known him my whole life.
Allisonville Elementary. So think of it as Jeff Allison.
That's right. Yeah. WoodWarblerCoffee.com.
Jeff Eastwood Warbler
That's right.
Coffee.
That's right.
See, I know all the sayings now. But it's specifically my blend that people are just going crazy for because it's rich, it's bold, it's sexy, it's got chocolate notes.
And it's like me, by the way, in the fact that it's hot, but still pretty good cool because I'm hot and cool. Women tell me that.
Coffee's named after me, my man. So, yeah, I mean, you're technically, I guess, part of it, and certainly you played a part in the proceeds going to Wheeler Mission. But really, it's about me.
That is correct.
And I want to state, we're not taking anything from this. We wanted all of it to go, Wheeler Mission and to support local coffee, two great causes. Jeff is a great guy. Wheeler Mission is a great cause. That's really what we wanted to happen. Now, if we start getting up into the millions, then we're probably going to have a conversation about me catching some of that back. Because I do have a licensing fee normally that I have.
Oh, did you waive that? Did you?
Yeah. I waived that for Jeff and Wood Warbler Coffee.
I don't know how much they can zoom in, but you can see it really is the hot.
Well, but it's my face, though, on the label. That was a test label. So we decided, how do we really attract people to this hot bag or a hot sack of Schultz? And
I'll bet you this label is actually the more preferred for most.
That would be inaccurate. WoodWarblerCoffee.com if you want to check that out. Thanks to all of our sponsors, and we can't wait to see you next week, recapping yet another Colts game, hopefully a bucket game as well. And we'll probably squeeze in some hoops talk because the Pacers about to embark on a new NBA season a week from Wednesday when they take on the Knicks. So plenty more to get to. Thanks so much to our ISC crew as well. And we'll see you guys next week here on Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network, ISCSportsNetwork.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
I'm counting on you to give me a burger with cheese.
Do I look like I work here?
The drive, the take, fouled, and it goes!
Lobbing it to the back of the end zone. They're going to say it's a touchdown.
Left foot gets through. Goal for Vargas. Hamilton will score!